Hi guys, today I want to talk to you guys about the color wheel, specifically using watercolor paints. Now we've done the color wheel before using tempera paints, but I want to show you how watercolor works a little bit differently. Thankfully watercolor is really fast, so we can bust this thing out really quickly. I always recommend labeling your notes. To start off organizing a color wheel, I like to draw a very light triangle, trying to make all the sides about the same size. This just helps with spacing and it makes your color wheel a little bit more organized. Alright, so I pulled out my three primary colors, yellow, red, and blue. As we know, those three colors will make all 12 colors on our color wheel. So let's get started. I'm just using a round brush. I got nice clean water. So I always like to start off with a light color. Now I noticed first off, my yellow got a little dirty somehow. Always check your colors before you paint with them. If there are other colors on it from the last use, just take a wet towel and wipe it down. It'll save you heartache later trying to mix a color without having to use a dirty color. Alright, so my yellow is good. As we know, watercolors are a water-soluble paint. So the more we swirl our paintbrush on our paint, the brighter and bolder our paint is going to be. We always want to use a palette to mix our paints and make sure we have enough. With watercolors, since the value changes based on how much water you put, I always like to start by making myself a little pile because then I know that this whole pile is all the same color. I'm going to put yellow right up at the top. I want to make it nice and big. Since it's primary, it's important. I'm putting it at the top of the color wheel. Make sure you have a lot of paint there. Rinse off your brush. Now let's do the same thing for red. Swirl it to activate it, make it nice and bold. Then let's put it on the tray so that way I have a nice big pile of color. We're going to come back and use these colors a little later, so having some extra is a really good idea. All right, my red is nice and bold. Let's put this one over here on the right. Make it about the same size. This is just a practice. You are not turning this in. This is for your reference. So if it gets a little sloppy, it's no big deal. Rinse off the brush, and let's finish up with blue. So we know that primary colors are special and important because we mix them to make all other 12 colors of our color wheel. I really recommend, if you want some more information about colors and find it fascinating, do some research. Find a video that talks about the warm or cool versions of primary colors and how they can change how you mix your paints. I'm going to start by just putting down some water in between those primaries around our color wheel so we know where they're going to be. So let's start with yellow and red. As we know, it makes orange. So when we mix our colors, remember we want to think about what color is stronger and which one's weaker. Of yellow and red, yellow is the really weak color, red is the stronger color. So that means we're probably going to have to use a little bit more yellow first. So I have my pile of yellow. I'm going to take just a little bit of red and I'm going to mix it in. Little bits at a time, slowly mixing till I like the color. There we go. And I'm going to put that over here. If you need a little bit more of color, you can even take it straight from your dots from before, because watercolors are a little bit slower for drawing, depending on your weather. So you can keep working with them. I don't know. Now, this might happen. Your brush might be dirty and you try to get onto a clean spot. It happens. All you gotta do, wet or paper towel, clean, and I want to blot it. I want to soak up that color before it dries. That's gonna happen. It's okay. So I just want to take my clean paintbrush. I'll get a little bit more yellow and I'll fill that spot back in. It's no big deal. Watercolor is very forgiving that way. You can fix mistakes when they happen. Now, if we go to yellow and blue. That's going to make our secondary color of green. Yellow again is the weakest color. Blue is a very strong color. So we want to start by pulling in a lot of yellow. This time I'm going to work just straight from my paper. I'm going to take some yellow, rinse off my brush, and I'm going to take some blue, and I'm going to mix them together. Now I notice my blue is already starting to dry. It's a hot day here while I make this video, so I might have to go back and add a little bit more to our blue there. But it made us a green. I'm going to go back and give myself a little bit more blue just to keep it nice and wet and keep it a nice good color. Now lastly, blue and red make purple. Remember, purple and violet mean the same thing. Either answer or either word is correct. Does not bother me which one you use. I tend to use purple just out of habit. But purple, violet, same thing. Now of these two, blue is stronger and red is weaker. I'm going to take from my paint palettes over here instead of from the circles just because it's so hot in here they're drying quickly. So I want to start with red. Now I used up my pile of red earlier when I was making that orange, so I want to make a new pile. I can add water to it. Ooh, little spills happen. That's okay. This is just our practice paper. And I want to add a little bit of blue to it. Make that purple. Ooh, that purple turned out pretty nice. All right. Now, to make our tertiary colors, I want to actually do it straight on the paper. I'm not going to mix on my palette first. I want to make sure that my primaries still have enough pigment left on them, so I'm just going to give them an extra little layer real fast. I see my reds drying out. Rinse off my brush. Put a little bit more yellow back up there. Rinse my brush. And we know my blue is still good. So, with just a wet brush, all I'm going to do is draw a line between my primary and my secondary. And I'm going to make a little dash in the center. This is pulling the paint from each direction and mixing it for us. As we know, in between yellow and orange is yellow-orange. And it mixes for us. We didn't have to do anything. Rinse off my brush. I'm going to draw a line between the two colors, and I'm going to help pull those colors in. The red's pulling nice and easy. Orange is being a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to help pull that color in and mix in the center with my little dash. Now we got red-orange. Blue-green, and lastly yellow and green. Make our yellow-green. Now as you can see, my green dried out a bunch here, so I'm having to kind of scrub my paintbrush on top of it to activate that color again. That happens. Alright, now as we can see, some of my colors ended up being a little bit lighter than others, but it's a great simple way to show a color wheel without a lot of effort, quickly and efficiently. I recommend using this color wheel as reference whenever you do projects. We can use it to figure out how to mix our colors, but we can also talk about the relationships between the colors. As we know, directly across the color wheel from each other are complementary colors. We got red and green, purple and yellow, orange and blue. Complementary colors make each other look better. Then when you mix them together, they make a neutral or brown for you. Your colors can really affect how your art is perceived. So use your color wheel as reference. It will really help you out.